Hola amigos, let's talk about establishing norms and expectations with our students. So I have been in school for 2 weeks. The first week was professional development, and the second week we had students. And I'm going to be completely honest here. The first couple days were very daunting. Number one, because I came off of a summer where I didn't do a lot of schoolwork. I do not regret that. But I did have to hit the ground running. And I am the type of person, unfortunately for myself, where I believe that I have to do everything all at once, all in 1 week. And that type of mindset will stress you out. So I have been changing things up this school year. Number one, my biggest, I guess, success from this week, and I hopefully it will continue into the next week, is just realizing that I need about 2 to 3 weeks to really get into the routine and establish the systems in my classroom. So I have taken this one analogy that I learned from a teacher years ago about a jar with rocks, and she was sharing with her students how she prioritized. And I'm sure that this anecdote has been circling for a while. But you have a jar, and in that jar you have to put in the big rocks first. So those are like our priorities, relating to teaching what you absolutely need to do. So if you don't do these things or you don't have these big rocks in place, you are not going to have a successful day. And then after that, you put in the pebbles and then the sand and then the water. So you kind of fill it up with all of the minor, important, but not necessarily urgent items of your day. And so one of my big rocks was making sure that, number one, I have my syllabus ready to go. I have my back to school activities. And if you're interested in what I did for back to school, I will make sure that I include the link to my Nail Your First Week with these activities, and also establishing norms and expectations with my students. So there's two things that I'm going to talk about in this short video. The first one is having students send you an email. So practicing the art of communicating with teachers. And this was huge because in years past, I would get emails without subject lines. I would get snarky emails. I would get emails that were really demanding and, quite frankly, rude and mean. And so this school year, I decided, instead of doing a bunch of the fun things that I do at the beginning of the year, which I still had some things, I decided to invest time in teaching students how to write a proper email. So I'm just gonna front load this. The template that you're going to see, it is actually something I grabbed offline. I Googled it and looked at a few of the templates, and then that is the one that I used. I do not believe in recreating the wheel, and this is something that I show to my students. So the first thing that I thought was really important is I have a block schedule. And with that block schedule, we have 90 minutes. So I just don't think it's efficient for us to use during that 90 minutes. If you have a question about something, let's use some of that time to troubleshoot. Let's use some of that time, meet with the teacher if you're going to be absent. And so that's the first thing I put out to my students. I told them, if you have a question, come see me I call it reset and recharge. So those are pretty much my office hours. It is the last 10 minutes of class, and after a 90-minute class, like, students are tired. So I normally, so that I can get prepared for the next class, I have like 5 minutes of cleanup. I do collect their cell phones, so I have them retrieve their cell phones during that time. And if a student needs to meet with me for whatever reason, they know that during that time they can do that. I also I asked them if they had a life outside of school. And a lot of them raised their hand. I asked them, well, what do you do after school? And some of them share their hobbies and things that they do after school. And the reason for doing that is, number one, yes, I want to get to know my students. But number two, it was to really set up the stage and let them know, like, you see me at school, I'm your teacher. But guess what? This human being that you see has a life outside of school. And it garnered a few laughs, but it's true. So I let them know I do not answer my email outside of work hours. And number one, I have like a 40-minute commute. Okay, so when I get home, I am not opening my computer to answer an email. I make dinner. I spend time with my family. I enjoy reading. So I needed for them to see that I am a full person with hobbies. I am just like them. Another issue, or not issue, another thing I wanted to make sure to communicate was that sometimes I do read their emails, and if students have the feature on Gmail where they can tell you read the email, they may feel a certain way. Like, I sent her an email and she didn't respond, and I let them know, well, perhaps I'm considering the request, and this is something that I don't need to respond to right away. This is something that we can take care during reset and recharge. I also tell them, which was not necessary, but I just wanted to let them know, I receive so many emails on a daily basis. And as much as I would like to answer every email, it really isn't feasible. So let's use the time that we have in class to do that. So I walked them through. The first thing we did was we generated subject lines, okay? And this was very important because I wanted the subject line to encapsulate what the email was about, and it needed to be short and succinct, very to the point. So we made a list of sort of a subject line bank. And then from that subject line bank, students could choose one. They can create their own subject line, and then they had to state a problem in 3 to 4 sentences. I told them don't go overboard. That related to the subject line, and they gave me an idea of the reason why they were emailing me. So we practiced that. We practiced greetings in Spanish. So I gave them a few. They can say hola señora. They can say estimada señora Quintero. So there's so much. I feel like as I was doing this activity, I realized that there was additional ways in which I could embed language. So with my upper level students, I told them that they can send the email in Spanish or in English. I left it up to them because there are some students who are like, they really want to send me in Spanish. There are students who are like, I don't want anything to get lost in translation. I don't want any questions about what I'm sending you. So I'm going to communicate in my heart's language. And that is totally fine. And then we talked about sign off. So I gave them a few in Spanish, sinceramente, atentamente. We talked about that a little bit, and off to the races. They sent me their emails. I'm sorry, I'm missing one thing. They had to identify their class level, and period. And I asked them reflectively, why do you think that information is important? And I just told them, I said, when you send me an email that is fully accessible, once I see the class that you're in, I see the reason, that helps me. I can pull up my grade book and I can check whatever you want me to check. And so I think giving them sort of the rationale really helped them to see how this process was going to help me really process their request. All right, so the next thing that we talked about was cell phones. So I do have a cell phone hotel in my classroom. And in years past, honestly, I just told students that, hey, I'm collecting cell phones, they're disruptive. But again, I gave them a little bit more background, and I shared with them some of the issues that have happened in class. And I told them, I said, let's be real, it's hard. It's really hard to self-regulate. There's an issue going on. You have an assignment, you get an email, or you get a text message. And of course you want to be present, but the temptation, the lure is just too heavy. And I also framed it as a safety issue because we have had in the past students taking pictures thinking that, they're funny and posting them online of students, and that's just not cool. And so one of the ways that I told them that I want to make sure that everyone is safe in class is that I am going to have them put their cell phones up. So we have a 90-minute class. I do not have them check in their cell phones until about 15 minutes. So when I give them the bell ringer, a lot of times I do allow them to keep their phones. And during that time, I'm looking around and I'm monitoring because I may adjust that. I may get to a point where I say, you know what? I'm watching them come in class. They're not completing the bell ringer in a timely manner. And so I may opt to say, like, turn in your phones when you first come into class. And so one of my other systems that I've been doing is whenever I give them an assignment, so I check assignments the last 20 minutes of class. So we have the reset and recharge, and then 10 minutes before that, I am checking off assignments, answering questions. And when they come up to my desk, so far I have called everyone up. So I don't know if that's going to be feasible once the assignments get a little bit more complex and they get longer, But this week, I just called everyone up because they're really short assignments. And as I check off their work or give them corrections, they take their phones, they go back to their seats. So it has been so great, and it's been a really great flow. So those are the two hacks from the trenches that I wanted to share. Thank you so much for listening. And if you're interested in learning more about me, my journey, or my resources, feel free to peruse any of these links on this site. Have a great day.